an album like this shouldn't be selling 10 million copies, let alone being a cultural phenomenon. Now then guys, QUINNSDUDE here, back on the Rad Music Chat channel. Hope this finds you well, and thank you so much for joining. Usual quick bit of housekeeping: if you're new here, please subscribe so that you'll get notifications of whenever I upload new stuff, because there will always be something coming that you'll be interested in. And secondly, if you like this video, down below is the thumbs. So for today's album, we are jumping back into the 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die book. And it's not an overstatement when I say that this album was a cultural phenomenon. This album went to #1 in 21 countries and has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. It also spawned 2 #1 singles in the UK. For an album of this style and how hard this album is, those previous figures are pretty staggering. I am of course talking about The Fat of the Land by the Prodigy. This is their third album, released on the 30th of June 1997. Genres attached to this one: electronica, big beat, electro punk, techno rock. It's all in there. Prodigy mastermind and main man Liam Howlett had never made any secret of the fact that he was a huge fan of metal, hardcore punk, harder forms of dance music, industrial, drum and bass. And on the excellent second album, Music for the Jilted Generation, those influences had started to shine through a lot more and added so much more to the band's arsenal. So on Music for the Jilted Generation, you started having sort of heavy guitar riffs, a lot more hardcore hip-hop style breakbeats, and just everything was much more amped up, harder hitting, and full of punk rock attitude. Across the 10 tracks that make up The Fat of the Land, all these elements have been ramped up even further, and what you get is it's basically, for the 10 songs, it's mainly it's just an oral assault of the senses. Starting off the album with the very highly controversial "Smack My Bitch Up." Read about the controversy. That's a whole thing in itself. An amazing way to start the album, and you get at the start of each bar, the lead, the first beat is punctuated with the sound of smashing glass, like a window being smashed, which is a nice throwback to the first song on the previous album, the song Break and Enter, which also does the same. The Arabian style female vocal part that comes in halfway through Smack My Bitch Up is so sinister sounding and foreboding. I'd actually forgotten, because of the size of the singles that preceded this album, and one of them preceded it by over a year, because Firestarter and Breathe just became almost caricatures themselves. They were just everywhere for years and years after the album, but they were just so in your face and around all the time that it took away from the effect of the rest of the album. And this album is so, I'd forgotten how just menacing and creepy that the mood of this album in general is. A real highlight for me, it always has been on this album, is the track Diesel Power. Diesel Power is a mid-paced, hard-hitting, the beats are huge, hip-hop song, and what it has is vocals from the legendary rapper Kool Keith. Now, there's no real dynamics to this song. It just starts and ends the same, and there's no sort of break. It just follows the same beat, and it's down to the rapping of Kool Keith to carry the song, and carry it he does for over 4 minutes. I think what made this even more stand out to me listening to this recently is the fact that my last review, which I'll put a link down, was the Kendrick Lamar album To Pimp a Butterfly, and I was talking about how rappers of Kendrick Lamar's ilk aren't really paying much attention lately. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine to what the flow of the track is doing in a lot of cases. I mean, sometimes they do, but you know, a majority of the time it's not. The music's almost like a separate thing, and this just was exactly what I needed to hear again at the right time. Fantastic track. Another real highlight for me is Funky Shit, which samples the Beastie Boys vocally, and is one of the more up-tempo songs on the album, and is kind of more of a throwback to the Prodigy's earlier sort of more techno-y rave leanings, but still hits hard, still works within the context of this album's more you know, harder and heavier and moodier vibe. As well as Howlett and the Prodigy, you also had the kind of crazy imp-like vocalist Keith Flint, who sadly is no longer with us. And one of his best vocal performances in the Prodigy is on the track Serial Thriller. Serial Thriller has this really heavy guitar riff that goes over this fat big beat drum loop, and yeah, what an effective track. It sounds like sort of Roots era Sepultura gone techno. One of the most unsettling tracks on the album is Minefields, which features Prodigy vocalist rapper Max in Reality. He has a really threatening sort of style and tone to his voice anyway, and this track is no exception. So can't avoid talking about Firestarter. This came out a good 13-14 months before the album's release, blew the doors off, and just really kind of set the tone for what the Fat of the Land was going to be about. You know, the Prodigy were going to make a menacing and foreboding record, and you know, the fact that it was so overplayed kind of took the effect away a little bit. But it's not till you go back after years of maybe not listening to it and listen to it within the context of the album that its effect comes alive again. So you've got the real, just the dark tone and feel mood of it, and you've got these hard-hitting beats that just come out and punch you in the gut. The video, I mean, it must have scared parents stiff. You know, you had this Max in Reality, who's this, you know, tall, sort of demonic looking thing that, you know, the Christian religion would have you think that hell spews forth to come and, you know, wreak havoc. You've got Keith Flint, who's this little sort of imp, little hellion that's running around, you know, just creating mischief. And there's the whole thing, the whole package together just really set the tone. Any negatives on this album? Yeah, I mean, Narayan, as good as it is, just goes on pointlessly for like, I think it's over 9 minutes in length, and it really, you could have shaved 3 or 4 minutes off that and still it would have done what it needed to do. Last track, Fuel My Fire, which is a cover of the punk rock Riot Girl group L7. It's a cover of their song Fuel My Fire. Even though it had taken the album down to 9 tracks, it would just, you know, made it totally all killer, no filler. For me, that is. Thank you guys for watching this one. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you love this album? Have you heard it before? I hope you enjoy rediscovering it actually as much as I did. It's been a joy to delve back into it as a whole album rather than just the singles. So anyway, that's it for this one. Stay rad.